documentary was a lot to take. How did you manage to get through it and just keeping focus and not feel this attachment, strong attachment? As a viewer, I felt the attachment.
Yeah, I felt an attachment too. I think I work from a place of attachment. I think that even before I knew Judy's amazing family, I felt attached to the story as a woman, right? I think this is a person that got really worked over by the system at large, be that the medical system, the justice system, a system that has inherent sexism in it. And I think I saw that and I thought that even though maybe at one point there were elements of the story that were tough to look at and that hurt, it didn't hurt half as bad as she hurt to do what she did for us. So I felt I had to do it. I felt there had to be a record of this because this woman gave up a lot to try to help other victims of domestic violence.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't painful to see. It was painful to hear her frustration of not being heard, like you mentioned. Like she reached out for help and no one took her seriously.
Yeah, I think also for me, it's a strange thing to say, but I think there were parts of that story that felt vindicating might not be the right word, right? But we are, look, I'm a woman. I'm one of the 1 in 3 women that's experienced domestic violence as well. And I think there is this experience of not being heard, not being listened to, not being taken seriously, not being believed. The victim blame, right? And victim blame you impose on yourself, right? I said a mean thing. I sent this mean text. Maybe I can't report. Maybe I can't do this, right? And in Judy's story, all of that is so intensely portrayed, right? Those things that happen to many of us are, just to the most extreme version of those things they can be, right? In her story. And, I thought it was just important to make a record of it.
And she was such a warrior because, yes, she was a victim, but then she was a warrior. She was standing to her belief, and that I feel like kept her going the last phase of her life.
And I think when I found this story, there is this trope of a victim, right? And we're so a perfect victim. And that once you're abused, you're sort of this passive person. And if you're an angel, then you'll have pity. And that's your option once you get in this kind of a situation. And I was really attracted to the fact that, after being a victim of a crime, she absolutely transformed herself into a hero and sacrificed a lot, right? I mean, she understood when she made that testimony that the cross-examination was going to be brutal, that it was going to go into every corner of her life because that's how the system works. It won't let Michael's record in, but everything she ever did is going to come in. And she had to do that understanding she wouldn't be able to fight back because by the time that testimony was played, she would be gone and she wouldn't be able to explain it to her little daughters because she would be gone. And she decided it was more important to help other women than to cherish what privacy she had. And I was very, very moved by that.
When did you start working on this project?
I started working on this when the first court proceedings happened to see if Judy's testimony could be admitted, right? So they had recorded the deposition already, Judy had passed, and now there was a discussion. Okay, well, the judge who's hearing the murder trial, will he allow it in? Will he sign off on this? And, so I attended several of those hearings and was with the family during that time. And then once the testimony was admitted, I started filming around the final legal proceedings, and for a couple of years after that.
You did meet Judy?
Oh, I did not. She had passed away by the time I got there, and by the time I read the story, she had passed away because, it made it into the news insofar as it would reach me. It made it into the national news once she recorded that deposition, and it did in fact become a precedent-setting case.
Imagine you were working closely with Judy's mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How was that dynamic and hearing her? She must have been reliving everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what happened to that family is it's beyond awful, right? And any normal person would be traumatized by that and have some, lasting psychological effects, right? But Bonnie is also a remarkably strong person. And she'll do anything for her kids and her grandkids. And I mean, it's just insane to see how she can sublimate her own pain and her own trauma and do whatever she needs to do to either get Judy's story out there, to make sure Judy's girls are okay, to make sure Pat's getting what he needs. She's a really impressive person. But in terms of our relationship, we become quite close. And, that's not uncommon with me and my subjects. I'm like a pretty relational filmmaker. I tend to, it's a serious moment when you let a camera into your life. And so I feel that I owe my subjects a lot of transparency and a lot of patience. So we had a very long access building period, right, where we were just talking on the phone, where I would go and visit Ohio, and we'd make sure that we were aligned. And then, once Bonnie, I think, began to trust me a little more, it was all very easy. But one of the most remarkable things about the experience for me was, it's a time when the country's very, very, very divided and politically, and Bonnie and I have some pretty differing political views. And we were, filming this surrounding the back half of the Trump presidency and, the election, the Trump-Biden election. And I thought that we were going to struggle a little bit more because it's an inherently political topic than we did. But this is just a common sense, nonpartisan, like, let's get it fixed thing. I mean, this shouldn't be happening in the United States. We can agree on this. We can agree on this as a feminist issue across party lines. And we can sort of transcend some of those bumps in the political road there pretty easily through Judy's story and the need for common sense domestic violence legislation. So that part of the access building was very, very rewarding.
Now, there was a scene that I was surprised to see that scene in the kitchen with the granddaughters questioning, why don't I know this? How come and she's just like, you got to wait till age appropriate. Did you keep that scene in there? And Bonnie obviously seemed to have been okay with it.
Yeah, I think that a big part of why, the verite scenes in general with the girls are in the film with Judy's daughters is because, look, domestic violence or violence against women or violence against anyone, there's shrapnel, right? It's not just you hurt one person and that's it, it's closed. Whatever happened to that person is what happened and we'll move past it. You hurt that person's entire family, their friends, the town, the security of people like that person, right, who are interacting with the system. And I thought it was important to show that, like, when Michael hurt Judy, he hurt the entire family. And that how we handle domestic violence and how we handle the prosecution of these cases and all sorts of things, this affects young girls who are watching, right? This affects, directly how these young girls might feel about or process what happened to their mother. It also affects what they're going to feel comfortable doing and saying in the world because they have to see this up close. And to me, it was very important to portray that. I mean, and especially Maddie, the little one, it's like, how could you possibly at 10, 11 years old wrap your mind around this? How could you do it? You can't. And, it's not just Judy's kids. There's kids all over this country who are being asked to do that all the time. And they don't have a Bonnie who will sublimate her pain and be really tough and be an anchor to the family. And they're just, they're out there on their own. So the domestic violence crisis is something that affects a lot of people. And I thought it was important to show that.
Did you by any chance reach out to Michael?
I did. Yeah. Michael and I spoke many times on the phone. He initially was going to do an interview for the piece. Michael reached out to me first. He saw I submitted a court request, which is matter of public record, and my phone number was on it. So he'd called me, and
were you surprised?
I was sure. I guess when I got the first call, I was a little surprised. But Michael, as you see in the film, wanted to explain what had happened, and oh, she'd asked for a light. It was all a mistake, right? And I was absolutely willing to film his interview and listen to him speak and listen to his story. But the few times that we did arrange to go film Michael, he would get in some trouble at the prison and get transferred or not be allowed to see press, or so it never worked out. But it was our intention and Michael's intention to have him participate in the film, but he couldn't help himself behind prison walls.
Until today, he has yet to apologize?
Yeah, that's right. He remains convicted that this was an accident. And I think that the viewers can decide for themselves whether it was or wasn't by watching the actual video of the incident, which I think is pretty revealing, and hearing from his defense attorneys and Judy's family.
Mm-hmm. There's a scene where you have Bonnie watching the video. Was that the first time she was watching it, or is this? So you got to witness that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but like I said, Bonnie and I became quite close, right? So we had, I was very invested, like I said, in how the family was processing this, right? And to a certain extent, once Judy was gone, their discussions about Judy or their interactions with the case, that was the way you could feel Judy in the room, right? Like it felt like Judy was there, not necessarily in a metaphysical sense, but in the sense of this vacuum, this space where this girl wasn't, or this love that was still so palpable and there for her. And that was one of those moments where, it felt important to show, because I mean, just imagine being a mother having to watch that. It's god awful. And it was also, important to show because I feel like that was a very sad, but a very big moment of connection between Bonnie and her daughter when she decided, despite the emotional pain, to bear witness to what had happened to her. I think that's a mother's strength, right? To want to say, if my child went there, I want to go there too,
Yeah, I mean, with Judy, it was the physical pain, the frustration. But Bonnie, I mean, she took a lot.
Yeah, world's best mom. I mean, she's just incredible. She's made of iron. She'll do anything for her kids and her grandkids.
Mm-hmm. What was her reaction when she watched the documentary?
She loved it, which was good. I said to the family, they're my most important critics here. Because, it's an intense thing. You're letting someone in your life with cameras. Someone probably won't make another film about your story again. So, they're letting me more or less introduce them to the world, or at least a bunch of strangers, and to sort of, have a pretty big say in Judy's legacy, right? So it's always very important to me that the people in the film feel good about the film. And we saved we wanted Bonnie to see it first on a big screen. So we talked with her about it. We said, you can watch it, on your computer. I can come out to Ohio and watch it with you at your house. But we really want you to, we think you're going to love it. And we really want you to see it with all the magic of a movie theater and an audience. Because when this does play in a theater, you hear people gasp and cry and just respond, right? And I wanted her to have that experience, because so much of her frustration was that her daughter being silenced, no one looking, people refusing to look, people not caring. So I wanted to give her this experience of witnessing people be moved. Mm-hmm. And I think that enhanced her experience, and the kids, thank goodness, liked it too. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was a great piece. I mean, it comes out this Friday, perfect for October, National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And with Judy's story, I mean, it's amazing. It's very touching.
Thank you so much. Thanks for toughing it out. I think a lot of people, I know it's a hard film to watch. I think a lot of people look away or want to look away, but we hope that people like you dare to watch, because it's happening all over this country. And if we keep looking away, it's going to keep happening,
Yeah, and especially for women,
Yeah.
watch out.
Yeah.
Watch your back. Really be careful. Look at the red flags because crazy people out there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.